Hey y'all, guess who? It's me, Hobo. Uh so it is Thursday night. What do we got here? We got woohoo! These lives I don't expect a large audience. It's just I do with all I've got going on right now, I don't have the time to spend in the shop doing the projects and the recording and the editing. So but I've got to keep my projects going. And tonight it's gonna be a little different than some of the stuff I've been doing because I've got a project that I want to create and put on the site for sale. But I figured, with everything I got going on, I haven't even started this design process. I've got the concept in here. Now I got to get it from here to here and then onto the website. And so tonight will be just you'll get to see the creative process that I go through. And then, by Saturday's live stream, and this Saturday, well, let's see, I don't even know. Uh, calendar. Uh, Today's the 27th, so this Saturday will be a 3 p.m. or in the middle of the afternoon for me, evening for the folks across the pond. So by 3 p.m. Saturday, I will have a finished design and a prototype. Because before I put any design on hobowithwood.com, I will have built it at least once or twice and know that the file works. So I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out for a little bit. If I will pause periodically in the design process and just look for any questions. If I've done something and you're like, what are you doing there? Let's see here, who we got all in here. I was looking for our Aussie. No, don't want you. And I don't have my phone muted, and I'm not going to be having my phone muted maybe ever again. If there are situations that may arise that I'll need to take a call. Got some things going on that I just cannot ignore right now, no matter what I've got going on. So if you hear the phone, if it is one I have to take, I'll just mute the mic and be as quick as I can with it. All right. We're going to jump straight in here to Lightburn. I've got some stuff I wanted to address with the Aussie robot, but he's not here today, or he's not here right now. He might pop in. So what this design I have, what I'm going to create is a tricycle, a trike design, but not like a child's trike. It's going to be like you see for these. You see a lot of the adults and seniors riding them now, and they've got the big baskets on the back. So I want to create a large basket on the back, and that'll be sitting on top of the two wheels of the trike, and then you'll have the seat, the single wheel in the front, and the handlebars and all that. And we're going to use Gravini to design the basket, the box, if you will, just because it's quick. And then the rest of it's going to be done simply freehand with the pencil tool and the shapes. And I'm going to use, I'm going to do the box or the basket in two different styles. I'm going to use Gravini to do one, let Gravini pretty much design the entire basket. Then I'm going to do another one and show you how you can use the random array tool to create a pretty unique looking personalized basket and use any kind of shapes or patterns that you've got in your library. So without further ado, let's jump over here to Lightburn and let's see, you got everything set up? Yep. All right. So as you see, we got a blank slate. And in fact, we'll do a quick idea. I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna have In fact, these trikes you see, they're not like a child's trike. A child's trike, well, you'll see a lot of times with the small wheel in the front and the great big wheel in the, or sorry, other way around. Small wheels in the rear and a great big wheel in the front. But these adult trikes, they'll be pretty much the same size. And then you'll have, I'm going to do a basket on the rear. And then we're going to come up and then have handlebars coming out on either side of it. And coming down and attaching to the basket, and then it'll come up and then have a seat that's going to be just above that. And so these handlebars are going to need to be at least as high as that. And that's kind of why I'm sketching this out now. I'm going to create the basket first, and then I'm going to try and draw everything proportionally to the size of the basket. And then I'm going to do it so that the basket and the rear half of it, the basket and the rear tires and all that, that can be cut out and assembled. And then this piece will be cut out and then can be attached to this. The handlebars are going to need to be separate because they're going to be on a different plane, because this will be flat. And then, of course, we want the handlebars going across it. The seat the same way. So that'd be one piece. I entertain the idea of making the front fork actually split and then putting a separate tire in there. And actually, you could do that by creating the single piece and then do like I did for the fan on the windmill. Just cut two small little accent pieces and glue them here over it and make it look like the fork went around the sides of the tires. And that's probably what I'll do, because that'll give some more dimension to it. All right. So now I need to open up a different tab, and let's go to Gravini. And if you are not familiar with Gravini, I'm going to copy. Let's see, got to get selected all. Copy and paste and put this in the comments. Paste. There's gravini.cz/en for English, I guess, because I'm not sure where this origin is, the CZ. I'm not familiar with that country code. But I'm going to go to the box designer. And now I don't want to do that. I'm going to remove the top. And for this basket on the back of this trike, I want to make the height of it, right at 2 inches. And the width, width we'll do not 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches. And then let's see. All right. I think I'm liking that. All right. Now, something you can do with Gravini. Let's see. Now I need to check my, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that'll work. All right. I'm going to set my kerf to 0 because I don't add my kerf in Gravini. If I want any kerf, I add it in Lightburn. Thickness is going to be 3 millimeter material. And I'm happy with that 10 millimeter finger. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fingers across there. And I want an odd number here because I want one. If I come up here, you'll see that's on the bottom. That finger is solid from the bottom. and I want a solid finger right here and not a tab in the middle, because this is where I'm going to attach my tire or my wheel. It's going to be a separate piece that will attach to the basket, and I'll create an additional tab that protrudes beyond the outer perimeter that the tire will slide onto. So having that centered there helps keep it all symmetrical. Now what I'm going to do is I'll use Gravini to create the basket. And with Gravini here, I'm just left clicking on the side of that panel right there. And now there, I'm left clicking and holding the left button, and then I can use my trackball to spin it around. But if I just click, it'll give me these options, and I can put different patterns in this panel. So if I wanted it to look kind of baskety, I put those diamonds there, spin it, do it again here, same thing here and here. And now you've got, kind of a basket looking design. Or if you didn't like that, then just right click it again and uncheck the diamonds and say, you know what, let's do the bricks instead. I didn't even have to uncheck it. I just have to select it. But if you're looking at it from a point of view like this, here you could click, that's going to get that panel. And then you can even click the bottom. So you have to be careful. We want to keep our bottom solid. But I'm going to go with, you know what? I'll go with the brick pattern for this right now. And no top, but solid bottom. And now I will download that. And I've got it sent to my download folder. And now I will go to my downloads. And it is 8:12. So open that one. Open my downloads. And we'll put this. There we go. Now I'll go back to Lightburn and drag this into Lightburn. And there is the beginnings of my basket. Now that's all going to be all grouped together. So I want to get rid of, I don't need those labels. So I'm going to ungroup it and then hold my shift button and select that 01 label or layer right here. And then now hit the delete button, and well, got to select it first. Now hit the delete now to get rid of all the blue layer. So there's my beginnings of my basket. Now the one thing I'm going to do, let's see, where did I go? My monitor went away. Here we go. Oh, there we are. Hey, I'm going to design this relatively small, where it's about 2 inches tall and 2 inches tall. And what do I do? I forgot now, but it's relatively small. But by doing this and saving it and creating it all proportionally to this size, you could then scale this thing up as big as you wanted it to. And since the basket is going to be one unit, and then the front of the trike will be a second, you could feasibly do this with the 12 by 12 material, making the front of the trike as tall as a foot wide or foot tall. So you could make this, even though I'm designing it small, it could be scaled up to be quite larger. Let's see here. All right. So now let's get back over to Lightburn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of that basket, come over here, and I'm going to orient everything correctly. These are upside down, if you will, so rotate those. And this one, I'm going to rotate once, bring it down here, and then bring this one. And I'm orienting this way for a reason. Show you how, because that's the top of the basket, and I don't really want to have a straight line across my basket. I want to give it a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of flair, if you will. So Let's select all of that, ungroup it. Now that it's all ungrouped, I'm going to go to my node editor. All right. So there are no nodes across the top of this except for the corners. Now, also, something that I do that probably no other creator does, unless they're watching Hobo with Wood and figured out, hey, this is actually a good way to make my files and make sure that they're light burn friendly, and I don't have people screwing up the file or complaining because they don't know what they're doing and they mess up the file and then yell at me because they don't know what they're doing. I'm going to make this file light burn friendly, and I'm going to do it now while I've just brought this in from Gravini. I'm going to fix it so that Lightburn only recognizes a slot as a slot and a tab as a tab. Because right now, as it stands, it will recognize it either way. And this is why, but there are a lot of things about this that Gravini does or doesn't do that boxes.py will do unless you tell it not to. And that's why I like Gravini better than boxes.py. But I'm going to add a bunch of nodes here to identify the tabs as tabs and slots as slots. But then I'm also going to add some nodes to the top rail of that basket to give it some contours and some waves and twists. And so the regular viewers, you've probably heard me say this half a dozen times if you've heard me say it once. Lightburn needs 4 things to recognize a tab or a slot. 4 nodes. It has to have 4 nodes to recognize a tab or a slot, and they have to be parallel to each other. Parallel top and bottom and parallel on the sides. If there's more than 4 nodes, then Lightburn says, okay, that's not a tab or that's not a slot. And when you're looking, and if you're working with boxes, the way you identify your tab or a slot is you go to your very corner, whatever the corner is of that design, of that piece, that individual piece, and you draw a straight line from that corner to the other corner. Anything above that line going away from the center of the object is a tab. Anything that goes below that line toward the center of the object is a slot. Lightburn does not recognize one or the other. It just says, hey, look, there's 4 nodes. That's a tab. Then you look at it as a slot, and he says, hey, look, there's a slot. No, it's not. So I'm going to fix that now because I'm getting ready to duplicate this. And so if I make these alterations now, whenever I do my duplication, it's already done. I'm saving a little bit of work. So back over to Lightburn. And I'm going to select the entire thing, go into node editing, and here's what I'm talking about. In fact, there's something screwy going on here. This is grouped, but there's nothing for it to be grouped to. And I can tell at a glance it's grouped because this right here shows a dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dash, whereas these are all dashes. And this is not grouped with anything over here, so there's something funky going on. So I'm going to select just that piece and hit ungroup. Now it's just dash, 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 dash. And I guarantee you there's nothing there. And if I just select everything except if I do that, I don't want to get it all. I want to look just shy of it. That way, if there was any loose artifacts, it would grab it, but not grab that whole thing. And then here I'm leaving the other side. But see, it grabbed nothing. There was nothing there for it to be grouped to. So that's a ghost in the design. And some of you may have had it. I've had different designs I'm working on. And then down here at my origin, there'd just be a random piece that gets attached to a layer. And then I can find it and delete it and goes away. I don't know what causes those to propagate or create themselves, but it happens. All right, it's all ungrouped. Now I'm going to go to node editing. And I'm going to come over here. And like I said, here is a corner. Here's a corner. Anything that's on that plane needs an extra node in it because it should not be recognized as either a slot or a tab. And I'll do this. I don't need to do this for my benefit. I'm doing it for yours. I'm going to come over here and grab a tool line and then drag it down. and pop it right there on the corner. And anywhere that that tool line intersects with the piece will get a node, because as now you can see that makes that solid. So these are obviously slots, not tabs. And so I'm going to come back here to the node editor, and anything, anywhere that intersects, I'm using the letter M for middle to put a node right there in the middle. Now I'm going to come right down the side. Same thing from that corner to that corner. So middle, middle, middle. At the bottom, middle, 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 and up the side over here. Now, when I look at just that piece, get rid of that line. When I look at just this piece and go into tools, resize slots and selection, I told it the old material's 3 millimeters, the new material's 3.5, and I'm looking for slots, the slot depth. It's recognizing all those slots. And when we try to look at tab height, there are no tabs because those have got those extra nodes in there. So now Lightburn cannot be confused. So that piece is fixed. And no matter what we do, we stretch it, make it bigger, stretch it out, make it a larger basket. It doesn't matter. Those nodes are going to be there. And to show you the difference, I will node edit this one, and here. This is where it can get a little bit confusing if you're not well versed, or if you've not done a lot of these yet. You have to pay attention. If you go, like, if you say, okay, well, I need to get, you're looking here, you know what? I need to get all these on the outside. So outside, 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 outside. Well, then you just screwed up, because this piece has got slots and tabs. This one had all slots. There were no tabs over here. So until you get really, really good, you might consider grabbing these tool paths, snap it to a corner, grab another one, snap it to the other corner, and then drag you one down here to this corner. And go to your corners. Let your corner be your starting point, because now you can see this is a slot and these are tabs. But if I go into Lightburn right now and try to use the tool, resize slots and selection, you can see right there, I'm in slot depth, and these over here on the sides are slots and they are moving. These are not slots and they are moving. That would ruin your design. So we're going to say cancel and go into node editing and use the letter M. And I use the letter M because it puts it in the middle and it just makes it look nicer. You can use the letter I for insert, as long as it's got a node, a fifth node. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and those 4 nodes make up that slot. And until I put that node right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, those 4 nodes made a tab. But now I put this 5th one in there, it's no longer a tab. Down here at the bottom, these are tabs. So I need to put my nodes down here on this toolpath using the letter M, 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 and then over here, M. And do need to check this, sorry. Okay, all right, good. All right, now, what you can do, since we have 2 pieces here that are identical, this piece and this piece are exactly the same, and I've just put all these nodes in and it's done, I can come over here and just select this entire piece, delete it, select this entire piece, Control D to duplicate it, and then move it over here. And now those are ready. I've just got to do the same thing down at the bottom one. I'm going to get rid of these toolpaths. And I can actually go ahead and select this and hit the delete button, grab this one, go into node editing, and following from the corner down, and now from the corner across, middle, 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 and corner up, middle. Done. Now take that, Control D, and move it over. Now that piece is ready, and It's almost a finished basket, but there's some things I'm gonna have to do to modify it to attach it to the trike and put my wheels on it. But I also want to do a different style basket. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this whole thing and say Control D. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I want to put the contours on this piece up here, on across the top of the basket. So in fact, you know what? I can just select both of these, delete those. I'll make the contours on this one and this one, then duplicate them again. All right, so node editing. Here, I'm going to, and the letter M for middle will put the node between the two nodes that are there. So if I put in, I'll come right over here to the very end, and I'm going to hit the letter M. It put the node over there in the middle of those two nodes. Well, now there's this node and this node. So if I come over here and still hit the letter M, it's going to split that difference. It will continue to split the difference. And then I can come over here and split that difference, come over here, and then there. And now those are all equally spaced. There's some symmetry there. So now I'm going to hover over this one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do them all. Just right there. I'm going to hovering over it. I'm going to hit the letter S, 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 hovering over each of the nodes, not the little flags or tangent that pops off of it. I'm going over the nodes themselves and hitting the letter S. And I may regret doing those on the end, but no, you know what? We'll try it. I'm going to come into the first one here. I'm going to select it, hold my shift button. I'm going to skip that one and grab this one, skip that one, grab this one, skip that one, grab this one. Now I've got every other node selected. I'm going to set my move to 1 millimeter. And now I'm just going to come down 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters. And I think that's good enough. That'll give me a 2 millimeter scallop across there. And actually it did work out. So now I need to do the same thing on here. Hit the letter M, 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 and now smooth them out, the letter S. And now I'm holding my shift button and selecting every other round node and come down 1, 2. And now that's got a scallop on it. I can, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and group this. Let's do Control D, duplicate, arrow that over. And now I'm going to select the entire thing and say Control D, duplicate it. Bring it down here. Now ungroup all of that. And now I'm going to do something a little different because I use Gravini to create that brick pattern, if you will. I think that's what they called it, the brick. And get rid of all the brick. Now here, if you've got something in your art library, or if you really like this idea or this concept, but you're a huge dog fan, or it goes, and in fact, what inspired this is I have an electric bike, and it's a bicycle, and I've got it's actually one of those toddler carriers or whatever they are. They're for the bikes. You hook them to the back of the bike and you put your kid in there. Well, I hook it up and put the dog in there, and the dog sits we go down for a ride. But when it's really super, super hot, this thing is fully enclosed. It's got the opening on it, but the shade might be kind of cool, but also it can maybe gets a little hot inside. And so an open air basket would be better. And I was looking at those on Marketplace, and so I had one of those trikes on Marketplace, and I was like, that's kind of a cool idea. But it wasn't electric, and I'm lazy, and I did not look any further. But that's I said, okay, well, that's when I seen that trike in that basket. I said, hey, that'd be kind of a neat. And somebody had mentioned they'd like to see some shelf setters different designs of just, and that's kind of what this was, just something that set on the shelf. And the bed served as like the basket wheel. We're going to be able to put stuff in the basket. But if you want to make this your pet friendly, paw prints or dog bones, I'm going to do dog bones. I'm not going to do paw prints. I'm going to do dog bones. So let's jump over here. I got question marks, and sorry. I was talking. I wasn't looking. Question. There it is. Randy, I have a problem with the corners piece when adjusting slots and tabs get squared. I have a problem with the corners on a piece when adjusting slots and tabs. Well, Randy, I don't quite follow what you're trying to say, but I think what you're probably encountering is you're either, if you're using boxes.py, or if you're getting a file from someone who used boxes.py to create those boxes. Boxes.py will put a radius on the corners of those tabs. And once that radius is there, it's putting at least 2 more nodes in there, sometimes 3 or 4 nodes to create the radius. And now there's as much as 6 nodes, and Lightburn, there's 6 nodes. Lightburn needs 4 nodes and only 4 nodes to recognize it as a tab. So if it's got a radius on there, it ain't going to work with resizing slots and tabs. You have to get rid of every one of those radius. And I've done that quite a bit this week with people getting files that they've bought on Etsy, and they're not Lightburn friendly. And here's something to look out for. This came up in one of them that I fixed. And I didn't fix it. It didn't need to be fixed. I modified the file. If you're looking on Etsy and you're buying a file, and that creator who's selling that file tells you in the description that that file is for 4.5 to 4.7 millimeter material, that's their way of telling you that it ain't going to work with the resizing slots and tabs. They designed it, and it's what it's made for. It's made for that material thickness and only that material thickness. So if you get something, or you're looking at something that says, hey, it's for this, don't think, oh, okay, well, I can just read. No, because most likely it ain't going to work. That's what I've been doing all week, is fixing these radius corners. And that's why I like Gravini better than boxes.py. Boxes.py, there's a button that you have to check to tell it you do not want radius corners. And there's another one where they put loops on the inside of the corners. So there's a radius on the outside and loops on the inside, and all of that makes it not Lightburn friendly. So try using Gravini if you can for your box generators. And I'll put that down here in the comments one more time for everybody who's late. Paste. So there's a link to the Gravini website. It doesn't do all those things, and it gives you a 3D real-time representation of the box that boxes.py can't do. So Randy, that might be what your issue is it's just it was a design for a specific thickness of material and designed in boxes.py, and it's not Lightburn friendly. Yeah. And they become slanted, and the reason they become slanted is if it's got the radius on there and you delete nodes to get rid of that and make them squared up, well, the nodes that are there, placed there to create the radius, they're not always on the same plane. So you delete this node over here and this node over here. Well, this one's actually a little bit higher. And so now when you delete the radius, that straight line is slanted. So yeah, it's just not, yeah, they become slanted. Yeah. Your best bet is, and if you've got a file that you need assistance with to modify, because what I end up doing, and I've like I said, I've done it this week for several people. I will get that file from you. You send it to me. We'll connect it in Hobo's World, and then I'll walk you through showing you how I create it, recreate it, and make it Lightburn friendly. Instead of trying to eliminate those radius and everything, I will calculate, and using the tools and toolpaths in Lightburn, I'll calculate the size of the tabs and the spacing required, and then recreate those slots and tabs, deleting everything that's in that side, getting rid of all of the nodes, and then repositioning the correct spacing back in there. It's a little bit of work, but once you do it once, now it is a Lightburn friendly file, and you can make it work with any material thickness. I really don't understand why. Well, actually, I do. See, I kind of shoot myself in the foot by teaching you guys how to do this, and instead of encouraging you to go to my website and buy the file. If I teach you how to do this, you don't need to buy the file, unless after watching it, you're like, I ain't doing all that. I'll spend $3, $4, $8, whatever. I ain't doing all that. But if you got nothing else better to do and you want to do it yourself, now you'll know every step by step how to do it. The only reason I can think to do it where it is a material, the design is made for that material only. I can create a design and have boxes.py spit out a design for 4.5 millimeter material. Then I do what little bit of changes I need, and then I can put that on my website. Then I can go back to boxes.py and do the same design, but just tell it to do it for 3 millimeter material. Now I've got 2 files. And if you say, oh, I really like that, and sometimes I work with 3, sometimes I work with 4.5. Now you got to buy 2 files in order to have that design for your varying material thickness. So I've got 2 things to sell you instead of 1. That's the only reason I can think that you would do that instead of just making it Lightburn friendly, so it can be adjusted to any material thickness. But anyway, squirrel. Let's see here. Okay, got that question mark. Now what I want to do is I'm going to use a tool in Lightburn. I used the Gravini to create that brick pattern in the basket. Well, this time I'm going to do a dog bone. I think I got a dog bone. If I don't, I'll make one. But I'm going to use I'm right. In fact, I haven't even updated Lightburn. I think 1.6.03 is out now. I'm using 1.601. You do need to have at least 1.6 to have this feature. And it's a really, really cool feature. All right. Now let's see. Switch. So there's my original. In fact, we'll do, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to select that and select that. Just kind of put a box around it. So I know those all go together. Get rid of that. I didn't mean to draw that one. Now let's go to my pet feeder. Pet feeder. Yep, there's a dog bone. All right, that's way too big. In fact, I'm going to change the dimensions of that altogether, and that wouldn't look terrible just doing one big dog bone. But small items could fall out of your basket if you were doing things on your shelf with little bitty things. But I want to make this smaller, and whenever I drew this one, it looks like I've got it's an open shape because it's grouped. So I'm going to ungroup it and edit. Nope, it's a closed path. I don't know why are there things there? Is there anything there? No. I don't know why that was grouped, because it's a closed path and there are no other pieces. That's twice tonight that I've had something grouped that didn't need to be. But now I'm going to shrink this down some more, holding the control button. And I don't like how long the middle is for what this is going to be. So I'm going to go into node editing And I'm going to select all of that. I'm going to bring it in 1, 2, 3. Go there, 3 millimeters. And that just kind of, it's now not as elongated. But now I'm going to take this and still make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to bring it up here in the top left corner, about right there. And I'm bringing it in here, trying to be about equal distance from the top and the bottom. And you'll see why in a second, about right there. Now I'm going to go into the grid array. With the grid array in 1.6, you have this random orientation option right here. And most of you are not going to have that turned on because you may have it and never known what it was for. And if you've never used it, it's not going to be on. But here we need to turn it on. And then I'm having to check these messages. I'm sorry. All right. Now, how many columns? We're going to do 1, 2. See what's happening with my bones? So if I turn this off, it's just going to create the columns. In fact, I'm going to leave it like that for now. And I'm going to decrease my X spacing to bring those in about like yay. And then if I create rows and I shift by half, if I don't shift by half, it's just going to put them all on top of each other like so. And I don't like that look. So if I shift it by half, that's starting to look a little bit better, but now I've got this great big gap over here. So in order to center this up and if I did, if in fact, if I'll just right now, I want to say group the results and say, okay. Now, if I take that group and tell it to go to center, it's got a big gap here and a gap over here. So to compensate for that, I'm going to undo, go back to that, go back to my grid array. And as I create my columns and my rows, I know that that's a big vacancy and it will create vacancies over here. I'm going to go bigger than it needs to be by adding an extra column on it. Now those are way out here, but now when I center it all, it's going to look better. So now what I also want to do is instead of just shifting by half, if I turn on this random orientation, it's going to start making a big jumble of the bones, twisting them around in random. And here you've got these overlapping and here overlapping there. It doesn't look good. And you can change right now. I've got it at number 20. And what that is, it's a randomizer, if you will. So if I change that, it's going to change the output. But if I got it to where I liked one particular output, it's like, oh yeah, number 7. 7 is the one I want. Well, I could use that same number 7 random number here, and it would be the same pattern in all 4 pieces. But if you wanted to have this truly random, you would do a 7 here, an 8 there, a 12 here, a 2 there, and no side would be identical. But here I've got these overlapping, so that's not going to work. So now I can start playing with my X and Y spacing to get rid of the overlapping, and don't shift by half. Yep, that don't work. And here the shape of the dog bone tends to make this not that great of a piece, but to do the random. But if I do this, actually, I do kind of like that. I didn't need all those extra ones because of how long the bones are. All right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to say okay, and that's number 7. Now that that's all grouped, I don't need all of them. I'm going to ungroup it and just go ahead and delete those, group those back together, and now hold my shift button and put that in the center. That's kind of cool. I'll ungroup it, grab my bone, duplicate it, come over here, and I'm going to start this one a little. I'll put it a little cattywampus. Make sure I got good spacing and do a grid. And I want to decrease. Let's see, I don't want to do number 7 again. Let's do 4. And just changing my spacing to what I feel like I like. And I don't like 4. Let's try switching it up to something different. And at 0, got to go up now. Oh, go back. All right, and say okay. Hold my shift button, put that in the center. All right, now I wanted to show you this. If this is a little close right here and you don't want that to be that fragile, then what you'd want to do is come in here and I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to do an offset inward and I'm going to do a round offset and I'll do 3.5 millimeters and say okay. I'm not going to delete my original objects. And now what I'm going to do is these, no, the bones, those are grouped, but I had to ungroup those a minute ago. So let's group those bones back together, group it. Now I'll hold my shift button and select that offset, select those, and Control B will bring up your Boolean assistant. And then I don't want that. And that's the one I'm looking for. So I can say, okay. And what that done was just nipped it just a little bit around the edges to make sure I've got a good 3.5 millimeter buffer and it's good and strong. And those, I had that grouped and I didn't catch that. So let's do that again. Put that back. And now hold my shift button, select that, Control B. And see down here is what I'm looking to, there we go. That's better. Okay. And that gives me that. And I need to do it one more time or 2 more times. So undo that, grab one of those, Control D, duplicate it. And we'll bring that there. Control D, duplicate that, bring it over here. Let's group those back together and group it with that. And array. Put it in the center. Do my offset. 3.5 millimeters inward with a round. Okay. Hold my shift button, select that, Control B, intersection. Okay. And let's twist this one to about there. And array. Oh, not that. And change. And you can key in if you had a number that you liked better than the others. You could just key in if you had you knew what the orientation was. You've done enough. It's like, oh man, I really like the way that number 64 puts them out. You can just type in 64. So, okay, and center. That's way over there at the side, and that's way close to the side. That's okay. We're going to fix it by doing our offset. Okay, hold our shift, grab our array, Control B, and union, and okay, or intersection. So now there is a random orientation of all four sides to create a dog bone basket. And if I go back over to Gravini, I did 50 high and 80, or 50 by 100 and 85 deep. All right, so go back here, 50 by 100. In fact, if I grab a toolpath, my rectangle tool, and tell it I want it to be 100 by 50, there's the side profile of what my basket's going to be. And I'm going to leave that on the toolpath. I'm going to come down here, and I need a wheel. Holding my shift button, I'll come right here to where I feel like I'm about in the center, shift and control to draw it out from the center. And since this was 50 millimeters, wasn't that right? 50? Yep. I'm going to make the wheel 25 millimeters. All right. And I may end up making that a little bit bigger. In fact, I am. I'm just going to, let's do 35. That looks better. 35, and that'll be the same size as the front one. Control D, duplicate it, and bring it out here to the front. All right. Now let's start drawing a tricycle. Let's see here. Let's draw a rectangle. And I'm going to put it there. That's kind of centered up. And then I want to rotate the fork to where I think I want the fork to be, which we'll go with about right there. I think that's what I want. I think. But now, like I said, here, I drew this fork a little bit short compared to where my basket height's at. So I'm going to undo this and stretch that out because I need that fork to come up to at least the height of the basket when it's rotated. So now rotate it. Yeah, that's looking better. All right. Now let's draw another rectangle. Actually, you know what? I won't not use a rectangle. I'm going to use a line. Use my pencil tool. I'm going to come right about here. Come down to, we'll come down just a little bit below the basket. Come over here. Well, it's not even below. It's close. Hold my shift button to get a perfectly straight line there and a perfectly straight line up to there. All right. Now, I'll use my pencil tool to do that. I'll go back, select that, and I'm going to do an offset outward and say 3. No, not 3. We'll do just try to see what it looks like. 2 millimeter outward offset. Delete the original and OK. All right. Now, I don't like the corner right there. I do want a radius on the bottom and there and there. So if I go to my radius tool, in fact, this was what I do. Here to here was, so I've got about a 4 millimeter spacing. So if I come here to radius and I look at a 2 millimeter radius, I don't think that's going to, yeah, that's good. That'll work. And in here too. All right. Here. No, let's just undo that. All right, now I'm going to draw another line from here to here. Offset. No, don't want to do that yet. Cancel. Node editing. And now I want to put a little curve. And we're going to make this up top, up higher. Bring it up here, bring this down here. And offset, and this one needs to be 1 millimeter. So, and delete the original. Okay. Weld that into there. And I don't want this radius up here. So now I'm going to ungroup that. And here, and this is what I was talking about a minute ago, Randy. Here, Lightburn created this radius on here on whenever I did the offset. But here's 1 node, 2 node, 3 node. But then here's just one arbitrary, so there's 4 nodes there. And if I was to delete this node, letter D, and then delete these, no, I don't want to delete that one, delete just that up one, and then tell that to go to line mode. See, there's that slant because those nodes weren't parallel to each other. They weren't perfectly across from each other. So that's how you get a slant when you're trying to get rid of those radius. Now, one easy way to know to get it levels, grab you a toolpath, bring it down to one of the 2 corners, then go to your node editor, grab your node, and then just start bringing it. Oh, that's too far. That's too far. Got to set my movements. 0.002. And start bringing it down to it's on top of that toolpath. And now you got you a straight line across there. And now I need to put a tab on this one. And so I'm going to draw me out. It needs to be 3 millimeters high, and we'll do 2 millimeters. And I need to unlock my aspect ratio, make that 3, because the material I'm going to be making this out of is going to be 3 millimeters high, and I'm going to make it a 2 millimeter slot. That's where I'm going to stick my seat. But now here, if I tell this, and I want it to be right in the center of that, and if I got that selected, hold my shift button and select that and tell it to go to center, where'd it go? One over there, because it's the centering of that whole piece. That's not where I want it to go. So you can do this a couple of ways. If you are really good with your mouse and you got really good eyeballs, if you zoom in here, if you got your mouse moving across that line, whenever you get, and this right here is telling you, that gray bar is telling you that's the center of it. But if you get on the line, see how you get the circle in your cursor? That's the center point of that design. And if you bring it from there down here and look for that center point right there, now you've got it perfectly centered. But if your eyeballs are not that good, or you're not, and this is where the right mouse will make all the difference in the world. I was doing this for the first year using the trackpad on my laptop. Laptop was the first mistake. Trackpad was the second. So get you a really nice trackball mouse. Makes it a whole lot easier when you're trying to move these designs around like this. But if you don't have a really good mouse and you can't see that real well, all you have to do is come up here, draw you out, or create go to the rectangle tool, come over here, hold your shift right there. Right, I'm going to left click, holding my shift button, and I'm going to come over to that next corner right there. And it doesn't matter if it propagates down there or up there, because I just going from corner to corner, and I drew out a perfect square that's the exact width of that piece there. So now I can use that toolpath to say, select that and tell that go to the center of that, and that put it in the center of that lower piece. And then once you dock it down to it, it will be perfectly centered up. So there's 100 ways to do things in Lightburn. There's no wrong way, no right way. It all work. if you get the result you want. Then weld those together. And it didn't weld together. Undo. And now weld it. There we go. So that little spike is where I'm going to put my seat. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put a little spike over here to put my handlebars. So here, I'm going to draw out another rectangle. I'm going to put it, it also needs to be 2 millimeters by 3 millimeters. But now I've got a problem with getting this in the center of this and getting it properly aligned. Well, here we're going to use our Control 2. Control 2. With that piece selected, holding Control 2, and then select that corner point. Then come out here to this point and hold, left click. And once you've left clicked, you can draw this out as far as you want to. And I'll draw it down here to this corner and make it snap right there. And now that's going to align it to the proper angle. I don't know if it's centered or not yet, but we're getting ready to find out. Because now if I take and find, there's my center point right there. I can come on here on this line. I've got the angle right. So no matter where I slide it up and down that angle, I'm good. So now I'll slide up that angle until I find my, there, right there. That's centered. So now I can hold my shift button, grab that, and weld them together. Got a little funkiness going on there. Use your node editor, select that node and the letter D and clean that up. Fender and handlebars. All right. So I'm going to draw out, this was a 35 millimeter circle. And I don't want a circle, I want a straight line. I'm going to do a straight line and do, let's say that was 35. We'll do a 45 millimeter straight line. Bring that down here. And I want it to go start about there. What I'm looking for is the front lip of the fender. Actually, we're going to put it, bring it on over here. Go to node editor. And I'm going to, I can just drag this down to where I think I want the height off the tire to be, about like that. Come down here, the height of the tire or the fender. I didn't need to worry about the length. I needed to put my beginning and end nodes where I want them to be. And I want the bottom of the fender to be right there, the top of the fender, the front leading edge to be there. So there is the beginning and end. Now I just need to grab the middle of that line and stretch it to the shape that I want it to be for the fender shape. And now it's like, you know, I want to look and try and keep this distance around the tire kind of parallel. So I can use these arms to elongate and stretch that curve to give it the curve that I want it to have. About like that. Now that I've got the curve right, I can just do an offset. And let's do 1.5. And say okay, and delete the original, and hold my shift button, select the frame, and weld that all together. So there's the frame, the tire, handlebars. All right, if my box is, let's see, where, there. Actually, you know what? I don't want a rule tool, selector tool. The box is 85 millimeters wide. Then let's look at straight line. And come Papa, there we go. Node editor. instead of curved handlebars, about like so. Then I'll draw a straight line from the end of each one. And actually, I should have duplicated those so I knew I had the exact same length. Oops, didn't want to do that. I want to select that line. Did I connect them? Yes, I did. That's all right. I'll use a toolpath. Come up here and grab a toolpath. Pop it right there at the bottom of that line. Now I can see where that line needs to end. Go into node editing and just arrow that up ever so slowly. I'm using my arrow keys because I want to go straight up. And if I use my mouse to drag it up, I could skew it a little ways. And instead of going in and adjusting my movement distance, I'll just patiently wait for it to get there, just like we do Christmas. All right. Now that I got that, I can delete that toolpath, select that, do an offset, and delete the original. There's the beginning of the handlebars. Now I'm going to draw out a circle. Start with a circle. And I'm going to tell it to go to the vertical center and the top. And then I'll just arrow it up to there. And now that I've got it kind of where I want it, I'm going to hold my control button and make it a little bit more elongated. This was 2 by 3 or 2 millimeters, and the materials, so 2 by 3. So no rectangle, 2 by 3. Put it in the center of that oval. And this is just to give this area a little strength because this is where it's going to snap onto the body. So I will do that plus this, weld it together, and that'll snap on there, and that's going to look all right. So there's my handlebars. Now I need a seat. The seat, I'm going to draw out kind of an oval shape to begin with. Convert to a path, show my nodes, and I'm going to select just that node and start arrowing it up a little bit. And now I'm going to come to this node and hit the letter C and come to this node, hit the letter C, and that will make those corners. But I can now start stretching this in. Do I want to do C? Yeah, I think I want to do C there. Let's try not C. If I don't make it a corner, see, that starts, see, by not making it a C, this bottom starts moving out, and that starts messing things up. By converting it to a C or a corner, it'll only move one side of it. So undo, and if I come over here, what are my options? Convert, let's see, C, smooth, C, convert node to a corner. Yep, I want to do C, letter C. And right now you can see it's still a round node. So hover over it and hit the letter C. It'll turn it into a square. And once you see it's a square node, that's now a corner. It's no longer a circle. And so I can bring that in, bring this one in. And that's starting to look more like a bike seat. But it needs to have a 2 by 3 rectangle in it. And I'm going to put it in a vertical center. And I think I like that placement there. Now, group those together, And now I'm going to look over here at your comments. In fact, Dan says he thinks my handlebars are going the wrong way. No, those are going to be sitting on top of this like so. So that'll pop down on there, and that's going to be pointed to the back. That's pointed to the back, but you're going to be looking at it from the side view, so you'd only be seeing, so that's correct orientation. But now that there's some tricky stuff, but before I go into there, I'll go back over here and look at all the comments. Let's see here. Auto switch. And I appreciate y'all hanging out, but this is something I would normally do like during the day, and then I would be designing this, and I'd cut it out and try it and see what I think, make some changes. So when you finally see this Saturday, it's going to look something like this, but it's probably going to morph a half a dozen different times before I finally land on something that I really, really like and I feel like is marketable. But let me come back up here. All right. Yeah, Brad, I've seen a few. In fact, I uploaded the 0.03 on the laptop today. I don't know how long it's been out, but there's a little bitty kinks going on. But I ain't going. They have to do some really, really stupid stuff before I start knocking Lightburn, because for the price and for its capabilities, it's really hard to beat. It's really for the price. I mean, some of the other softwares out there you can do some more crazy and more elaborate things with, but when you start talking about $200 or $300 monthly subscriptions, no, thank you. All right, let's see. Question marks. Good to see a lot of numbers. And for anybody that's new to the channel and you see these numbers popping up in here, the numbers are for when people learn something by watching what's going on. It's like, oh, like here, Brad says, hey, knew that existed but never used it. Moses said he's learned up to 5 new things. And those numbers just help keep the analytics going and lets Lightburn know that you guys haven't actually fallen asleep watching me, and lets me know you haven't fallen asleep. Yeah, Dale, there's a lot going on here, and since you were kind of late, I've got a lot going on in my personal life right now, and I don't have the time to spend in the laser shop like I like to. And these designs are what keeps my bills paid. So I need to get something out at least every week to keep my patrons happy and to keep a new product out there for sale every week. And this is something that I just popped into my head this week looking at stuff on Facebook. I said, hey, that'd be kind of cool to create. So you're watching the creative process right now on how I develop these. And we're getting a real rough design now, and we'll fine tune it, and it'll be available, a finished product, before Saturday. Let's see, go away. Can you use the radius tool on the seat corners? Yes. Yeah. In fact, we'll go look at that. And Chicago Bob says he hadn't put a number down there, but hey, I'm awake. And Connie says, oh, okay. In that case, I'm sorry, I didn't know there was numbers. Number 20. Okay. So Ed asked about using the radius on there. If we go back, and I got to check this. No, stupid. Go away. Okay. All right, Lightburn. So by making that a corner just now, it allowed me to move one side of that and not screw up that lower curve. But now if I didn't want that to be a true corner, I could use the radius tool and try putting in a 2 millimeter. Will it work? Is it going to let? Oh, I've got it grouped, so I've got to ungroup it. Got to select that, ungroup it. And now select it, radius tool. Right now it's set for a 2 millimeter radius because I'm working in millimeters and I got the value of 2 in there, and a 2 millimeter radius. Yeah, thank you, Ed. That just makes that look even that much better. So now the next thing, and because right now my plan is this is going to be a separate design, separate piece that will be assembled. The body, the actual trike will be a separate piece. And in my final piece, my final version, I won't have this long squared off. I'll do a more rounded lower tube. But I wanted to get something together here, and because this will be easy enough to modify. In fact, you can say, you know what, let's get rid of that. Let's take this, go into node editing, and I'm going to select all those nodes right there, and I'm going to hit the letter D, not the delete button. When you're in node editing, do not use the delete button. When you hit the delete button, you delete everything, and it's not your friend. Undo. So you select everything and hit the letter D for delete, the letter D. Now that I got those deleted, I can just come up here and grab this and bring this down here and anchor it about there. And I come over here, I'm going to insert a node here and a node here and stretch this on down. And I need to make those corners so that don't do anything silly up top there. C and C. And now I can stretch this out. And actually, you know what? I'm going to get rid of that. Delete. By bringing this down here like so. And then stretch this. And then you could do a pencil if you wanted to and just draw you in that shape. Oh, didn't want to do that. Nose. Letter S's to kind of smooth that out a little bit. But my final version will be something more, it'll be more aerodynamic and more pleasing to the eye. Something like that. Not really, because that's looking kind of, but more curvy. We'll make it feminine. We'll give it some curves. All right, but now the challenge is, like I said, I'm going to design the basket, and I want to attach the basket's going to assemble, and then I want to put the wheels on the outside of the basket, but I don't want them just glued to the face of it, which you could do, but I want to make sure that they are symmetrical from left to right side, and they can't be off. They can't even be off by 0.5 millimeter. And wow, okay. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you. I really appreciate you. So to have, because this is just my OCD, I want those symmetrical. And to do that, I'm going to put an extra tab on top of the other tab on the bottom basket that will make those tires, or those rear tires, exactly positioned, exactly the same, left and right side. And then I've got to connect the front half of the trike to the basket. So let's see how I'm going to do that. So if this is the basket height, or the front trike, and that's the basket, and everything needs to line up like that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw me out a rectangle. And I'm using 3. What the what? Brad, thank you. I'm using 3mm wood. So I'm using 3mm wood. This needs to be 3mm wide. And on my slots and tabs, the minimum I'll do is like 3 and 6. So I'll do twice the width. And I need to, and now it's actually a little bit. I can do bigger. That's the minimum. So now I'm going to do 10 and see, okay, what that looks like. And that's better. And I think 10 is what I used on the basket. I use my ruler, 9.45, 9.45, 11. I think in Gravini, I told it to do 10, but that's what they ended up being, I guess, for spacings, how they come out. But 10 will work over here. So I got 3 and 10. And if I do that and position it about like so, then do a grid array. Okay, now I need to turn off my random orientation. I need to turn off my shift by half. And I'm going to increase my Y spacing to 6 and 3 rows. I see that 10 is going to be too much. So I'm going to say cancel. And we'll go back to, we'll go to 8. 3 and 8. And move that up a little bit. And grid array, rows, turn all that off again. And here, because I used the the last time I used the grid array, I used the random orientation and the shift by half to create the last arrays. So now when I open up the array tool, those are automatically turned on because they were used in the last creation of an array. So that's why you see those on. So just know that, okay, the last settings are what's still there. So now you need to go back, turn off your shift by half, turn off your orientations. And I'm going to increase my Y spacing to 6. That's better. All right. So I got a Y spacing of 6mm, 3 tabs, 3 slots, and say, okay. Group the results, select the results. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out. And I didn't have the tire selected. Undo, undo. Let's move these up. Make sure I got, yeah, that's good. Grab out all of that, group it. Now move it out. Now I'm going to take these 3 and I'm going to say Control D, duplicate it, and bring that out here. Andy's saying you might want to double check the 50 by 100 box size. I think your aspect ratio was locked when you sized it, so the height might be off a bit. If you're talking about this toolpath, yeah. And this is right now, this is just a toolpath. This is not being used for anything at all tonight, other than just kind of looking to see about that size of that tire. And that still works because these, you can see that even if you hadn't caught that and pointed out, and thank you for doing so, this piece is actually irrelevant for what I'm going to be doing. These pieces here, I'm needing to attach to this spine on the bike. So if I select that and hold my shift button, select that and say control, let's see, alt shift, no, not control alt, H, no, what is it? I forgot my line tool. Brad's got me all flustered. Thank you, Brad. You got my brain all flustered. And Man, I'm extremely grateful, brother. Align, align, align. No, not align, distribute. Alt Shift H and Alt Shift V. So select here, and Alt Shift H will align those horizontally against each other. And what I need to do now is I actually need to move this stuff down here. I'm going to need these. But now I'm going to weld these together. And because all that's grouped is not letting me do any of my Boolean tools, so I have to come back to there, ungroup it all. Now I can select those tabs plus that and weld them together. And those are the 3 tabs that are going to slide into the basket. Now the basket, this will be the front leading edge of the basket, or this will be the front leading edge of the basket. And I'll grab this one for right now. Say Control D, duplicate it. And I'm going to bring it down here. And if I had this corner was going to be about there, just below the seat, then that's the height that needs to be. Then I can take these, select this and tell it to align in the center, and then align. Actually, I could have just done center. There we go, like that. Centered up on that piece there. Now it's like, well, wait a minute. You got all those holes. Those are the basket. Those are the bricks cut out, or the dog bones, what have you. That's okay. All I'm going to do here is come to these slots and do an offset. And I want to do a 3 millimeter offset. Do not delete the original. And say, okay. Now I will select all of those bricks. I need to ungroup that so I get just the grouping of the bricks. Oops, nope, they're not all grouped. It's all right. I only need those because those are the ones that are intersecting there with it. So I'll group that. With that group, hold my shift button and select that offset. Control B to bring up your, come on now, that group. You know what? Boolean ain't going to work. I have to use, the Boolean worked for me before doing this. Oh, it's because I got all those grouped. Dummy. All right. So I've got my toolpath selected along with my inner slots. That offset rather. So the offset, I need to ungroup all that. Dummy, come on. So those are separate. That's fine. Now I need this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one, and group those together. And now hold my shift button and select just that offset, and that'll bring up my Booleans. Control B. And now I'll look for the result that I want. And I don't want that. Don't want that. That's the result I'm looking for, but I don't really like how it looks, but that's okay. We're going to say okay right now. And what I don't like is I don't like those points. So instead of that, I will just ungroup those. And I'm going to come over here to the side, grab a toolpath, put it to that corner of that brick, grab another one, bring it to that corner of that brick. Now with those, I'll go to my node editing tool. I'm going to bring this node, and actually, you know what? I need another straight line, so I will come back to my selector tool, bring it to that corner. Now go to node editing, drag it to that intersection, drag this one to this intersection, and now select all of these and hit the letter D. All of these, hit the letter D. And And I need another one. Nodes. Letter D, and I missed one. And get rid of the toolpaths. Selector tool. And put all those on a cut path. So now I've got slots there that would line up with these slots and attach the bike to the basket. That can all be on a cut path. And I would need to redo this whole frame. I really don't like that, but that's okay. That'll be one of the things that gets modified. But right now, this would be where I get my first mock-ups. You know, something I can start putting together and find out what works, what don't work. Now what I want to do is I've modified that front piece, the front leading edge of the basket. Now what I need to do is modify the bottom. Grab it. I'm going to duplicate it. Not going to mess. Oops. Not going to mess with my original designs. Before I move any further, looking back here for any questions, comments. Let's see here. All right. Yep. Got Andy. All right. Got that. Come on down. Come on down. Come on. Not right. What is that? Not come on down. Get on down. Get on down the road. All right. We're an hour and a half in here. We're getting close. This is where I want to try and start wrapping it up, but we're getting close, and I want to get the tires, the wheels done, and then modify. Show you how I'm going to add it to that base. Let's see here. Well, let's see here. I'm going to need the first day. Ooh, well, so you had a fire that was, and it burned 12 miles from your house at 15,000. I guess that's altitude. Well, thank God it was 12 miles from your house. I mean, it's close, but thank God it's far enough. A lot of inconvenience, I'm sure, but no loss. Yeah, and then you say that no life loss and no structure losses. Yep. Okay, acres, 15,000 acres. Yeah, I've mentioned before I was on the fire department for a while, volunteer fire department, and you didn't ever want to go to a structure fire, but I enjoyed that part of I didn't like doing the rescue part. I hated going to wrecks, but a few forest fires and working with the forestry service was pretty cool, and creating those guys do some, because you don't get trucks into those places. I mean, you huffing it with a backpack, a camel pack, and a squirt gun and a shovel. That's a lot of work. So hats off to those guys. All right, back to the modifying the bottom of the basket. All right, so this is what I was talking about earlier. When I was looking at the design in Gravini, I was wanting to make sure that I had a tab here or a slot, that are the equivalent of a tab. These are actually slots, but this piece is right dead in the center. So if I attach another rectangle out here, it's going to get, and then do the same size on the inside of the wheel. That'll give me a little protrusion here that will give me my alignment demarcation or a place to mount that tire and wheel to the outside of the buggy, and it'd be perfectly centered. So I'll come back over here and I will do the same thing. I'll do a 2 and a 3. So it's going to be, let's see here. This will be on its side. So it's going to be, 2x3. And now I'm going to get my circle on my cursor right there, come over and get it right there. That's perfectly centered. Now see there, it's a crosshair. You get that double instead of just a circle, you get an actual bullseye or crosshair because that's the actual center of it, of the entire piece. So if I was to take this and get my circle and come down here, I can get a circle right there, but you see it's just one horizontal line. You don't have that vertical crosshair because that lets you know you're in the center of that line. But here we're not only in the center of the line, we get a double crosshair, a vertical and horizontal. Now we're in the center of the line and the center of the piece. And I'm going to say Control D, duplicate that, bring that over here and get my little circle and look for my, there we go. Now I can select that, hold my shift button, select that, group it, hold shift, select the whole piece and weld it. So now that'll snap together just like any box would, but those little pieces are going to be sticking out, and I can do my 2x3 rectangle in my wheel. Put it in the center. And that's where that's going to snap on. Now I'm going to come back to my circle tool. I'm going to hold my shift and control, get my crosshairs right there. And by holding shift and control, it's going to draw out a perfect circle from the center. And I'll do about there. Now I'm going to do an offset. Let's see, come here. Here, we'll do an offset of, oh, you know what? Let's do inward and outward. We'll do both inner and outer and do 2 millimeters. So that's going to be a 4 millimeter total. Delete the original. Okay. Now, pencil. I'll come up here, find the center. Right. I'm on there. And I didn't want to do that. Let's try it again. Undo. Pencil. And I'm just going to come up here anywhere in the top of that tire, or in the middle of, I should say, in the middle of that tire. Start a line, hold my shift button, and come down here to where I'm within that circle there. Left click to stop drawing. Now I'll select that piece, hold my shift button, select that, and tell it to go to center. There we go. Now I'll select my line, select the circle array, and I don't want to do 12. We'll do 10. That's rotating those around there. Say okay. Now with those selected, go back to the offset tool. We'll do 1 millimeter. Delete the original. Select just the inner. Now here is where a lot of y'all get confused on trying to get the result that you're looking for. This right now is just the inner part of the tire. There's the outer part of the tire. Here's the center hub. Now, right there. Now the center hub's pretty easy. In fact, this right here was created with the offset. We can ungroup that, select that, and just delete that. That's trash. But we need this center hub welded to this, and that's easy enough. You know, you just weld those up. Now you've got that all one piece. But this is where a lot of you get lost. You're like, I want to get those spokes cut out of that tire. And if you've got these two grouped together, and then you hold your shift button and select your spokes, and Control B for Boolean, that works. That don't work. That don't work. That don't work. If I didn't have these grouped, and you do your Boolean, you don't get the same results because that's what worked a minute ago. Now it don't. So what you have to think about is, what are you selecting? All right, here you're selecting just this one inner circle, and that's one solid disc. If you were to put that in a fill mode, you've got that whole solid circle right there. And if I bring this to the top by moving it down the layer, there we go. And you say, you know what? I want that in there. So if you say, all right, I want that blue disc, hold my shift button, and then select those and hit the subtract button. Well, that subtracts that from that blue disc and gives you that. Undo. But if I have all of this on the same layer, let's put this back on the cut path. If I group these, not the same layer, if I group these and now put that in that blue fill mode, you don't have a solid disc. You've got just that solid tire. So instead of subtracting that, you'd want to weld that because there's nothing in here except for the spokes. So that's why you would use your addition tools. You would say A plus B and weld those together and get that. So it's like, do you want to subtract it or weld it? Well, it depends. What are you selecting? Are you selecting the tire or the inner disc? Let's see here. Are you going to have a 3 millimeter square on each side of the bottom, sticking out 2 millimeters from the side? That's sticking out 2 millimeters, and actually, yeah, I'd want that sticking out 3. So that would be one of those adjustments I'd have to make when I went to put it together. It's like, well, no, that needs to be a millimeter wider. So yeah, I would add another millimeter there. That would stick out 3 millimeters. So it's the thickness of the material, and it would fit on there. So I did 2 millimeters where I should have done 3 millimeters. I should have done a 3 millimeter square there. Yeah, like I did a rectangle and I should have done a square. And that'd be easy enough to correct by simply going to your square tool or your rectangle tool, come here to this inner corner, get your double crosshairs, hold your shift button, draw it down here, and that gives you that perfect square right there, and it's 3 millimeters. And I'm just going to take and grab that corner, bring it to that corner, hold my shift button and select that and weld it. And now that's sticking out 3. And if I'd have had it propagate out to the outside like that, I could now just say select and weld. Yeah. So now that's sticking out 3 millimeters instead of 2. And that's the same thickness that the tire would be, and it would fit right on there. And thank you for catching that. Okay. Yeah. And that's the whole reason that I never I never put any designs out that I haven't put together, because I don't trust this to work 100% correctly and have everything right without designing it, then cutting it, finishing it, putting it together, making sure that everything works like it's supposed to. Then I put the designs on the market. All right. So what he's saying here, let's see, switch. Go back to my ruler. No, that one's right. That's 3 millimeters tall. And that one's 3 millimeters tall. So that's right. I did those right. 3 millimeters and 2 millimeters. and 2 millimeters. I may have these oriented, and maybe that's what you were referring to. Undo like that. Yeah, like that. So when you somebody, maybe it was you that was saying the orient. Yeah, there you go. Yep. And those are the things that you catch when you go to try to put it together. It don't fit. But now we got that right. Good eye. Good eye, Dan. All right. So now there would be a rear wheel. I control D, duplicate it. And then for the front wheel, control D, duplicate it. Oh wow, I used that up there instead of that down there. But you know what? That's okay. All I got to do is say if that one was 35 millimeters, select that entire thing, lock my aspect ratio, 35 millimeters. And there we go. That's the right size. Delete those. Now I've got to change my inner square, or rectangle, I should say, to make it 3. And now it's like, oh no, that's going to make it really, really weak. That's okay. All I got to do is come back here with my circle, come here to the middle, get my double crosshairs, draw out a perfect circle from the center again, get it to the size I want, and there plus there, and control B. That's the one I want. Say okay, and group it. So now that's right. That's the right size. So control D, duplicate, duplicate. So there's 2 duplicates there. So move one over. So there's the left and right side of the basket. There's the front wheel. Now for the front wheel, to hide it in the forks, in fact, I don't need this ungroup. Delete that. I don't need that in here. And on those front forks, I'm going to put some radius on there. And now come to Papa. Selector. You could extend the wheel tags on the bottom piece 3 millimeters more and put a hubcap on it. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. A hubcap would work. And you could actually, depending on, come Papa, depending on how far you wanted to go with this, instead of having a rectangle come off the bottom, you still do a rectangle coming off the bottom and do 6 like you suggest instead of 3. Then do a piece like this. Let me grab it. Let's see here. Oh my. Oh, my knees. Do a piece like this, a little U shape that would go fit in to the outside of the tire. You'd actually put a cross in the center of the tire instead of a rectangle. Put a cross so that it would slide over that 6 millimeter sticking out from the bottom of the basket. And then this piece would fit in the cross there. You want to do a cross? No, you want to do a cross. You do a circle. There. This is the cross. So you put a circle in the center of the tire or the wheel. and then put it'd be a 6 millimeter circle, so it'd fit over that 6 millimeter tab sticking out. This would be 6 millimeters tall and fit onto that tab sticking out. You'd make it so that they would interlock with each other, and then that would make an X axle that the tire could actually spin on. You could actually make it so you could roll it, and you'd have to do the same thing with the front. But we're not doing all that tonight. I'm getting ready. I'm going to end this in 10 minutes. I don't know if we have all of this worked out, but 2 hours is a long time. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I do appreciate the donations. And Brad, that's again above and beyond, and I appreciate you. Now I have to try and re-engage the brain here, and this is where, like I said, some of y'all get confused on trying to you just add the spokes or subtract the spokes. It depends on what you're adding and subtracting from. Well, now I need to, since I'm going to do this, I'm not trying to make the front wheel spin. I'm planning to cut that front wheel or out of, or the frame of the bike, the tire and all, out of one piece. And if you wanted to give the illusion of it having the forks around the tire, you could actually glue two separate pieces on top of the tire, so it would sandwich it. So it'd be forks around the tire. But here I need to, yeah, I hear you, burn car paint print. Yeah, we're not going to do that again, especially now. I don't want to get sidetracked or squirrels. I got to think about this for a second. In fact, sometimes it's just a matter of trial and error, and that's where the Boolean assistant can be your best friend in the world. But what you have to be careful of when you're using the Boolean assistant and or your cut tools, if you've got two objects, one of those two is liable to completely disappear and be eliminated from the design. So you have to create a duplicate to create the cut path that you want. And then once you cut and make your merge or whatever, then you've still got your original sitting there. So you have to be careful about that. But let's jump back over here to Lightburn. So what I want to do is, these are going to be cut out, right? But I want this fork to come down here. It needs to be solid. So if I select that tire and then I hold my shift button and select this, and then use Control B to bring up my Boolean assistant. That is what I want. There's a union. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. But you'd have to be, this is where you have to be careful. I got all of that grouped. If for some reason you did not have that all grouped, and you selected your tire and your bike, and you did Control B, oops, there, part of your forks just went away. You've got it connected to the top of the tire, but it's not connected to the center of your tire and wheel. So cancel, select all of the tire, group all that together. Oh, not center it up, group it. See, my brain's getting foggy. Control B and okay. And there is your front tire welded in place. Like I said, it's not going to rotate, ain't going to move. It's fixed in place. But then you could say, if you wanted to create that illusion of a fork, take that whole piece right there and say Control D, duplicate it, put it on a different path. We're going to put it on the blue path for right now. And I'm going to put it in node editing. In order to see your nodes, it has to be ungrouped. And instead of cutting it all out, you can use cut and cut out a shape, but you can also use your node editings to create a shape. You don't want any of this. Just keep deleting the stuff you don't want. Select them and delete it down. I don't want that. I don't want those. I want that. And I don't need anything that's on the fender. So you can select there and there, and then come over here. And you don't want any of that or that. Oh, did I go? I went too far. Undo. Get rid of that one. I do want to keep that. Okay, so there. Oh, wait a minute. They're not connected. So you wouldn't want to use that. You'd end up using I'd use cut shapes. But you cut shapes and cut out that piece and just have a piece that would go from there to the center of the wheel to create that fork look. But the node editing didn't work there. Delete all of the blue. Go back to selector tool. Delete, because those, for some reason, those were individual pieces. They didn't stay all together as one piece. Or you could just draw it out. Come up here and say, where do you want the forks? The forks would be underneath the fender from there to there, and then just draw it down. Because what have I said? How many ways are there to do something in Lightburn? There's 100 ways to do it, 1,000 ways to do it. Then there's the hobo way, and then depending on what day it is, the hobo way might be one way this day and then another way the next day. You never know. Then oops, I missed it. You seen it flash. I had it, and then I didn't quite get it there. Once it goes solid, come on. Why ain't you connecting? There we go. And cut you out 2 pieces like that and then glue it on top of there, and then it would look like a fork. What the fork? Okay. So that's 2 hours of rough draft designing. Then it's going to be tweaked, cut out, redesigned, fixed, modified, cut out, done again. So you can see there might be easily 10 hours put into design, cutting, and assembling to create what I feel like is a jam up piece. So some of the folks are like, oh man, $8 for a file. Well, yeah, some of them are quite intricate, and there's a lot of work that goes into making some of those, and they're all test fitted and designed, and I know they work. You're not going to have random pieces on top of random pieces and multiple lines that don't fit anywhere. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I will tweak this a little bit more and start getting because once I get the job ready to cut out, I can put this on the laser. I've got a lot of I'm renovating the house I'm in, and that's I've got a lot going on in my personal life, and I'm having to remodel the house. I'm putting in a whole new bathroom, changing a half bath to a full bath, lots of plumbing, lots of electrical, and I'm here in the shop. But I can set this up and put it on the laser, hit the cut button. You never should leave your laser unattended while you're cutting. But I'm not going to be leaving the house, but I'm going to be, and this is an open sanctuary, and the bathroom is now going to be part of the sanctuary. I'm putting the shower in the sanctuary. So if I had to go back to a church, I can always tell them it's the baptism pool. Oh, Lord, we're getting crazy. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hopefully there'll be enough people to watch this on the replay and get something out of it. The window, Connie, I actually I got the window completely out, got all the casing out. I was able to save one of the panes. One of them, I accidentally cracked it. Didn't see a screw and a piece of wood in it. Little nick, and but the window's completely out. Half of that window will be boarded up, and half of that window is going to be the new door going into the shower. And the real fun part is this was an exterior window that is now in the house because the rear porch was enclosed. Actually, there was a rear porch added, and then a rear porch was enclosed. So this is an addition of an addition of a change of an addition of a renovation of a model, you know. But where this window is at that I just took out, these walls were put up in 1900 or 1901. And they were built with rough cut lumber, real 2x4s, not today's stuff. And the walls are built on 2 foot on centers. The studs are 2 foot on centers. And then the studs that are, the ceilings are 10-foot ceilings. But it's crazy. There's not a header on the wall. Not a complete all the way across. It's not. They're not. Walls aren't built like they're built today. What was the right side of the window is a 4x4 post that goes from the floor all the way to the rafters. From the floor to the rafters, which is probably 14 feet at least. And that's got to go. So, and it's a load bearing. I mean, that, and from there, it's that window all the way to the windows, and it was at least 36 or 40-inch windows, a big window. Before there's another support that goes up to the rafter, and then 4 feet before another one. So it's obviously got to be reinforced and jacked up, and so it's going to be fun. Then I got the plumbing and the electrical and all that other good stuff. So this is why we're doing what we're doing here. I've got to get this done and that done. And I've got to take my calls just in case somebody calls about any emergencies. So thank you guys for bearing with me. Thank you for hanging out. Are you going to show us an update when you finish? Yeah, absolutely. Connie, if you are a patron, I've been posting some of the videos and showing a little bit of demolition and showing the rough cut stuff on my Patreon channel. Federal code is only designed for a 25-year lifespan. Old houses are the best. Well, until you have to work on them, Brad. Nothing. You can't go buy anything for this house. And in fact, I'm going to say this and I'm out of here. The insurance coverage for this house, they will total this house in the event of a fire. If there's only a partial loss on the house, they would still condemn it and total loss it because of the amount of expense on trying to repair it. Because what I was saying, it's a real 2x4 wall, and you can't go buy a real 2x4, so you got to build a 2x4 wall. Then everything has to be shimmed out. Then all the doorways and the casings and everything. Nothing. You can't go to the store and buy a casing for these doors because everything's so big, and that adds to the expense of repairs. And they say, you know what? If it's over a certain dollar amount, we're going to total loss the whole thing because it's cheaper to start over than it is to repair it. It is a challenge. All right. Yeah, where did the phrase jacked up come from? I did not do it. I'm going to have to jack up whenever I go to take this out, the stud out, I'm going that brace, that 4x4 post. That's what's going to have to be the rafters and all going to be jacked up, firmed up. It's going to be fun. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out. And I will see you Saturday with a finished version of this and a finished design on Hobo with Wood. So thank you all for your support. You guys have a good evening, and we'll see you 3 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, we'll see you then. You guys have a good evening or a good afternoon or a good day wherever you're at. Thank you for hanging out.